And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Shelley Tasker Show here, coming out of Cornwall Revolution Radio.blogspot.com. It's good to have your company. There are lots of you listening already. I think that's probably to do with our first guest. If you'd like to join in with the live chat, click on the live chat room link at the top right-hand side of your screen, just below the player of your choice. Today's date is Wednesday, 13th January 2020. Hosting along myself is Charlie Rainbow and Neela Eilertson via Skype. And tonight's guest, the one and only Mad Irishman, Richie Allan. Good evening, Richie. Good to have you on the show.
Hi, Shelley. Thanks for inviting me. Really glad to be here.
It's an absolute honour. I listen to your show a lot, and I love the fact that you're just so outspoken and say it how it is. You've certainly got away with words, Richie. So, and I know you're a busy man, so I'm really grateful for you coming on. And I know you said earlier, I said to you, I just wanted a brief chat about your life and your career, really. And you said, I'm boring. Well, I don't think many of our listeners will think that you're boring. So, yes. Anyway, can you give us a bit of a briefing? How did you get to where you are today? I mean, obviously, we're talking years of radio experience. You've done some TV work as well.
Well, I'm in a very wet and windy and freezing cold Salford. So how did I get here? That's a great question, really. It's certainly not the Riviera that Cornwall is. I got into radio by accident in 1998. I was a nightclub DJ. I got into local and then commercial radio in my hometown, doing music programs originally, and then because I had an appetite for news and news analysis, I kind of graduated or migrated to producing the station's mid-morning talk show. Like most commercial radio stations back then, my station had a mid-morning current affairs program that ran Monday to Friday for 2 hours, and I became the producer of that and the presenter of it when my presenter was on holiday. That's where it began for me back in 1998. I've done a lot since then: commercial and national radio, teaching radio, writing about radio, and even doing postgraduate courses later on in television and radio here in Salford, believe it or not. But that was some years ago. So yeah, I've done quite a bit, really. And it's not...
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You ventured into the pub scene as well, didn't you? Did you have your own pub?
Well, we did, yeah. My better half ran a pub in Spain back in, 2006 to 2010. Wow, that's a story and a half in and of itself. But while we were there, I was working for a commercial radio station in Spain called Talk Radio Europe. But yeah, I did work in the bar and help out in the bar. Fun times. Nice of you to bring it up, Shelley, as I'm sitting here in a freezing cold conservatory in Salford. It's not freezing. I've got the heating on, really. But I can hear the rain in the background. Yeah, so I spent some time in Spain. I think about eight and a half years, all told, before coming back to the UK back in, I think, 2013, I think. I've been around, it's fair to say.
You've done the blog. And you, what's the word? You didn't take a job offer for the BBC.
No, I've had a couple of opportunities over the years to work for to work for Auntie. And it wasn't that I had any moral, compunctions about working for them. It just wasn't the right time at the time, and I had other plans. So I can't say, I'd love to say, it would be a lovely biography. This is the guy who turned down the BBC. That's not the case, really. And over the years, from Ireland and from Manchester when I first lived here, I did some regional stuff for various regional BBC stations as a freelancer because of my experience and ability. I would have done a couple of reports just for pocket money and stuff. But I couldn't say I worked for them, but I did some contributions. But that's a long time ago. No, I'd love to say I turned them down. That'd be lovely. But it wouldn't be true, to be honest. But yeah.
But, is there no jobs going for them now? Because we could really do with a...
Wow. No, neither me nor you nor anybody else that's, talking about current affairs and interviewing the types of people that you and I and others interview. we're never going to get a look in at the BBC, but not just the BBC, any commercial station or national station anywhere. Those days are gone. I turned down a commercial radio station in the north of the country. It's a very well-known one. Back in 2014, I just come back to Manchester from London, and I was offered a breakfast show at a really good radio station, and the money was very good. But my other half and a friend of mine persuaded me not to take it because I wouldn't enjoy it. And they were right. And I didn't do it. That was definitely the last time that I would have been or ever will be offered a gig with a commercial station. It's never going to happen again. But hey, listen, I'm not complaining. It doesn't bother me. Who could go? What broadcaster now that knows what we know, or that has been exposed to the things we've been exposed to? How could you do a breakfast radio show now and talk about traffic and travel and interview some guy from The Voice?
Yeah.
No, I couldn't do that, to be honest. But yeah.
Real journalism just gone down the pan, isn't it? And I think most of them, they should be utterly ashamed of themselves. But
well, it's a shame. It's a shame that you ended up speaking to me on my radio program about your experiences. While I have a nice reach, it is a nice reach, it's scattered to the four corners of the world. Really, you should have been interviewed by somebody on BBC Radio 4 or BBC Radio 5 Live, but it doesn't happen.
I was asked by Piers Corbyn. Morgan. Oh, sorry, I always get them wrong. But I declined. I just thought he will hammer me. He will absolutely hammer me.
Well, he wouldn't hammer you because he don't. It's not that he's got. I don't know. It's not that he's any better than you. But what they do, guys like him, and he's just a poor man's Bill O'Reilly. Let's be honest about it. Bill O'Reilly was doing this 20 years ago on Fox News, and go back 20 years before that, asking somebody a question and then jumping down their throats when they're 3 words into the answer. That's not presenting. That's rubbish.
Yeah, I was seriously considering it, but I was advised against it. Anyway, part of me did think, well, actually, I could get my message across, and maybe I should have done, but hey, it's gone now. So anyway, enough about me.
It's interesting to talk about their approach, though, isn't it? Because it is something. It's horrible how he does do that.
Oh, he's awful.
And I've noticed, so it's interesting to hear.
And if Philip and Holly was going to do it,
it would have been very irritating, wouldn't it?
It would have been gentle, wouldn't it, if Holly and Phil did it? Yeah.
Well, at least to be fair to Schofield and Willoughby, I've seen that. I mean, I remember when they interviewed Noel Edmonds, and Noel was talking about, energetic healing. I think he had a mat, I think, which gave out vibrations, and he was talking about cancer. They did give him a bit of a going over, but they never interrupted him. They allowed him to say what it was that he was there to say. So, I mean, Schofield, whatever he might be, he is old school. He understands that you look an idiot as a presenter if you keep interrupting your guests, because the audience isn't stupid. You know, the audience is well aware of what's happening. Morgan, most broadcasters that ever worked in any, whether it's radio or television, they know what Morgan is. He's an idiot. He's not a broadcaster. He's not a journalist. And he's not a presenter. But he suits, I suppose you could say he suits the agenda at the moment. I mean, he's very pro-coronavirus. He's very pro-lockdown. And he is a useful idiot, I suppose we could call him.
And he's very pro going on holiday at Christmas.
That's right, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So are you struggling with censorship at the moment? I mean, this is massive at the moment, isn't it? People's channels being taken down and, well, freedom of speech is just going. Have you had problems with your channel?
Not really. I did a couple of years ago. The original YouTube channel for the radio show was deleted in... very quickly. It had 3 strikes very quickly in a period of about 12 hours. And I was upset at the time. And I can honestly say it had nothing to do with the fact that the channel had a lot of subscribers. It had a lot of subscribers. That wasn't it. It was that I don't take myself very seriously at all. I'm very self-deprecating and I've got very thick skin. You have to do the sort of job that we do. But what really upset me about it was deleted because of an interview I did with Wolfgang Halbig, the former National School Safety Inspector and former Florida State Trooper, who was asking some questions about Sandy Hook Elementary School, which were genuine and justified questions. But what really annoyed me was I hammered Wolfgang. I mean, I gave him a proper going over, at the same time allowing him to speak. You know, I asked him all the right questions. I was the devil's advocate. I played my part, and I was upset about it. That's the only real censorship I've really experienced. That channel was deleted. Lately, a couple of 12-hour Twitter bans because I can get a bit sweary of a Sunday evening with half a bottle of Bacardi in me. It happens. and the bans are probably justified, really. But no, they tend to leave me kind of well enough alone. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I'm an insider. I don't know. But a couple of 12-hour bans. And lately, everybody I know is seeing their Twitter following number decreasing or being depleted. Now, I know the reason this is happening. Twitter is not basically turning your numbers down. What Twitter is doing is it's banning so many people at the same time or at the one time that it's inevitably going to affect your Twitter following. Like, for example, yesterday, they kicked off 80,000 Q and on followers. Now, I don't believe in the Q and on conspiracy. Listen, doesn't mean it isn't genuine. It's just that I don't believe in it. I'm open to everybody's point of view. But I'm sure that a few of those accounts were followers of my radio show. So you've got a few there that were deleted. And then, of course, my number goes down. So censorship is all the rage at the moment. I'm more worried about Ofcom this year, the regulatory body here in the UK. I'm really worried about them. They're going to determine pretty soon that people like us and, you know, content creators like me, we shouldn't be allowed to stream a live radio show 5 days a week without being regulated. That's going to spell big trouble for somebody like me, because they will, I think, regulate. They will legislate for that. They will say to me, listen, pal, you now need to have a license from us. And here's the kicker, guys. When I have to apply for that license, they will give it to me immediately for the £200 or whatever it is I'll have to pay. But then I'm screwed. I'm screwed because Ofcom works on a kind of a 3 or 4 strike and you're out system. Somebody might complain that I had a guy on the other night, for example, who was blaming everything on the Jews. Now, he's a nice guy, and he blames everything on the Jews. I don't agree with that, and I argued with him as any decent journal or presenter should do. And it's good. It's good radio, and bingo, off he goes. Happy days. I move on to another guest. But somebody might complain that, and Ofcom might say, Mr. Allan, we've upheld the complaint, so strike 1 against you. No action now, no fine, nothing but strike 1. Second time it happens, they get back to me and they say, that's a £500 fine. Okay, and I might be able to pay the fine. I might crowdfund the fine. I might pay it. I'd probably pay it. Third time, Shelley and friends, it's you're off the air, Mr. Allan. And at that stage, if you broadcast again, they have the power to confiscate your equipment. So that's where the censorship, I fear, is coming further down the road. I don't care about Twitter censoring me. I don't care about getting kicked off of YouTube, because I have my own stream. It's hosted by a streaming company in America, and I get to broadcast every day at 5 o'clock. And I do my thing, and I do it responsibly. But if Ofcom determines and the government determines that we shouldn't be outside of their scope, outside of their reach, it's doom for people like me and others. Anyway, long-winded answer there. My apologies.
No, we'll be going back to the old CBs and stuff, won't we?
CB, oh, God be with the days. Hey, breaker, and the CB names. I can't remember what my CB. I had a CB name.
Yeah, my friend says, because Ofcom doesn't regulate podcasts, but because he's like in a proper radio FM type show, he reckons that eventually they'll start trying to do podcasts as well. What is your view on that?
They will. Who am I speaking to again, by the way?
This is Charlie.
Sorry, Charlie.
How are you doing, Charlie? Sorry, Charlie. I made a note that I was going to be speaking to Charlie as well. Charlie, you are absolutely right. At the moment, Ofcom does have domain over internet radio and internet television, but only if those are actual channels with a linear schedule. You understand? Mm-hmm. So I'm not a linear schedule. It's just me, me and myself, 4 or 5 or whatever times a week. So at the moment, there's nothing they can do. But yes, they are determined. Now, I know this. I could drop some names, but I won't. I'm in touch with journalism professors at various academic institutions in the UK. One of them is a very good friend of mine. He goes to meetings where these things are discussed, where regulation is discussed. And Charlie, you are bang on. In the very near future, and we're not talking a year, we're not talking 18 months.
No,
In the very near, yes, they're coming for us.
Everything is speeding up rapidly.
Yeah.
Hi, Richie, Nina here. I just wanted to, lovely to have you on the show and speak to you. Just wanted to know, like, because you're using an American streaming service, couldn't that mean that you won't be affected by Ofcom then? Doesn't that get you out of that or no?
That is a brilliant question, Nina, and I'm not patronising you. Fantastic question. We ran into this problem in 2013 in London with the short-lived People's Voice experience. We set up and we were ready to go, and a letter from Ofcom came in the door saying you've got to have a license because you're a new television, even though you're online, you're a television show with a linear schedule. And we went, damn, we didn't know about that. We should have known about that, but we didn't. When I say we, I wasn't management or anything. I was a presenter, but we didn't know. So we thought, well, what about if we do the streaming from offshore? But no, they've got that covered. Nina, once you're domiciled, once you're working from here, you're here, and that's all they care about.
Right.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
How do you see things playing out, Richie, at the moment? What? It's a crazy question. I mean, we're all affected. Do you go to bed every night and all these scenarios are playing out in your head about what's bloody next? Do you feel like you're in a dream?
Again, it's an amazing question. That I'm one of those statistics that were mentioned on the BBC today. I'm one of those that's drinking more than he used to drink. I'm not quite at functioning alcoholic stage yet, but I'm just having a couple of beers every evening or a Bacardi, and try not to think too much about it, because I think when I do, I take it on air then, and I take a kind of a pessimism on air. You know, half the time during the day, I think we're screwed. There's no hope for us. And other times, I think we might just get out of this. It's very, 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 very difficult to see right now, tonight, the 13th of January, to see how we can get out of it, because it's coming thick and fast everywhere you look. You know, the places that you desperately need some opposition, there's none. The Telegraph, which of course is a conservative newspaper, blah, 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 fair enough. But in an editorial last week, it brilliantly described the broadcast media. The broadcast media has one gear and one gear only, and that is to demand more regulations or to criticise the government for not doing enough. And most of the print media is like that. And as far as politics goes, the Labour Party, the Lib Dems and the Greens are unified in their belief that the restrictions are not hard enough. It's depressing stuff, it really is. And we know that the restrictions are absolutely ridiculous. They're futile. They have no basis in science. We know that the virus itself, I mean, I don't know what I can say on your platform, but
you swear, you do what you want.
Well, I won't swear, no, but I mean, we look, I was able to, through a listener, it must be said, you know, on Irish radio on Sunday morning, a health service executive by the name of Colin Henry, clinical director, was able to go on the air and say, oh yeah, we've got a problem with beds at the moment in Ireland. We've got a problem with beds and covering beds, but at least we don't have flu this season.
Oh, no.
That's what he said.
God.
And so I grabbed the audio and I've played it on the radio show. And of course the presenter sits there with his hands, you know, under his arse and doesn't say anything. I mean, it's an open goal. Hang on a second, very senior medical guy. Did you just say that flu has disappeared off the face of the earth? Because that's what he did say. This is an absolute joke, this situation. And for a media organisation like the BBC, like the Daily Mail, it's an open goal. You could take the government down in 24 hours, but they're not doing that. Why are they not doing that? Are they in on it? I don't know. Maybe they are. I'm beginning to think they are. You know, do they think they're doing the right thing? Do they think they're actually helping to preserve life? I don't know. but it's an absolute shit show. We know that to die of COVID, you've got to be 82. And you've got to have comorbidities. We know that if you get it, 99.7% of those who get it are not going to die at all. We know this. We know that they're fudging the hospital numbers. Shelley, you're living proof of that. In terms of the bed capacity and stuff.
Oh, God, yeah. They were saying earlier, like the hospitals, they're saying they're full and overflowing. Well, they're all running at half capacity because of the social distancing measures. So, and the numbers are still lower than last year for deaths and stuff.
Not to mention that they've gone from 240,000 beds to 160,000 in a period of years. They've also been hemorrhaging nurses and doctors for years. We know this. I mean, I think back to last winter. As a journalist who reads the broadsheet newspapers every day, and I have done for 25 years, didn't surprise me to see those memes going around with front pages of The Guardian and the Daily Mail going back for the last 5-6 years. The same headlines every winter. NHS bursting, NHS in serious trouble, not enough doctors, not enough nurses. I mean, it's all there. And apart from Julia Hartley-Brewer, whenever she can be bothered on talk radio, and to give her a bit of credit, apart from her, there isn't anybody in the country outside of those of us that make radio programs like yours actually saying, well, look, there is another side to this. There are some statistics that you might want to hear that you need to know. So, I don't know, to go back to your original question about pessimism, I try to go to bed every night and put it out of my head. And depending on what time of day it is, yeah, we're screwed or we've got a chance. It's got to be quick, though.
No, I know what you're saying. I've had a really low few days and I'm just like, I can't be fucked to do anything.
Yeah.
And what's there to do?
Yeah, well...
You walk out the house, you're living in the Matrix, aren't you? And having endless arguments on Facebook. I'm just nearly done with that platform. I just feel that the masses, they are unwakeable. And I've been trying to get through to people, just listen to someone different. I put it like, if you have a marriage breakdown, there's two sides to every story. There's got to be two sides to every story for everything, and even this. But obviously the media aren't portraying anything.
I mean, look at some of the people that have been basically. I mean, I had an email from a Harvard medical professor the other day, who was on the radio show with me a few weeks back, and he said, "Richie, I can't get arrested over here in the US." But this is an epidemiologist from one of the world's, I suppose, most prestigious Ivy League universities, and he's saying it's bollocks, and he can't get on air. Now, I say to some of my friends, they don't listen to my radio show, and they think that I'm eccentric, and they believe the narrative, they believe the government, they believe the media. And I ask them, listen, forget about what you might hear me say in our private conversations. Why are you not concerned that Sunetra Gupta, that Carl Hennigan, for example, that Martin Kulldorff, for example, why are you not Dolores Cahill, for example? Why are you not concerned that these people, whose qualifications are the equal of that dipstick Chris Whitty and that goon Patrick Valance, why are you not concerned that these people are basically being banned from appearing on the BBC? Forget what you might think about me, your pal, the Baldy Gammon. Forget about my opinion. What about these people? Surely you want to hear them. And my mates look at me like I've grown an extra head. So what do you do about those people? We can't kill them. We've got to live with them.
Yeah. Have you lost a lot of friends over this, Richie?
No, I wouldn't say lost. No, but people don't pick up the phone. It's not so much lost, but you don't hear from them as much, I think, would be fair. I'm sure you're seeing that yourself.
Oh my God, massively. Yeah, I was doing the school run and I'm snubbed by most people. But it's kind of like those people weren't your real friends anyway. And I do feel like, I've got a whole new family now with my new awake friends.
Yeah.
And I'm missing a bloody good protest at the moment. I'm missing going out and doing that. And this is where the bastards have got us. That was the highlight of my life, going to a protest or a rally. And yeah, we can't do fuck all. So yeah, it is sad times. So, I mean, how does a day go for you? How do you go about getting your guests on? Is it kind of you're up, you're reading the news, you read a story, and it's like, right, I've got to get them on?
Yeah, it's very difficult because what I do now, I used to do for other presenters, and I would have an assistant as well. So I really should have 3 people working on the program, but it's only me. I'm the chief cook and bottle washer. So yeah, my day starts very early. I'm a 5:30 a.m. riser. I'm out with the dogs then, and while I'm out with the dogs, I'm listening to and scanning the national radio channels, the BBC Radio 4, BBC Radio 5 Live, and while I'm doing that, I'm at the same time as keeping an eye on the dogs, I'm looking at the because I'm subscribed to all the broadsheets, so I'm looking at the Telegraph, I'm looking at the Times, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do and what I'm going to be saying. So I've got to produce that aspect of the show, sourcing the guests, but I've also got a 30-minute news roundup, which I do every show at the beginning, which has got to have content in it, so it's got to have audio in it. So I've got to source that audio and edit that as well. So the days are absolutely jam-packed. And I'm still editing audio, most days about 5 to 5. But that's not as stressful as it might sound because I'm experienced, so I'm quite used to doing it. So it's crazy, really. There should be 2 or 3 people doing it with me, but there isn't. I'm not looking for any credit for that. It's just the way it is. And but ultimately, I enjoy it. You know, when it comes off, I mean, anybody who's been in radio as long as I have, they'll tell you that sometimes you have exceptional programs. It's like playing a football match and playing really well, and you think to yourself, Jesus, that was good today. Other days, it's not great or as great as you would have hoped it to be. But I'm happy as long as people come on the show, like when you came on, that have something to say and legitimately, they're legitimate people. And I can share that person's experience through listening to them with my audience, because that's all it's about, really, ultimately. It's about building a platform. Not for your own opinions. My opinions don't matter a damn, really. I do express them in the monologue, and it's usually by way of just having a laugh and trying to get a giggle out of the audience. But ultimately, it's not about me or my opinions. It's about the people who come on. I mean, people have to hear that Shelley Tasker has been in these hospitals and has seen this stuff. They have to hear that. And that's why I suppose the show exists, really.
Yeah, real people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I only do it once a week. I couldn't source guests like you do for every day. And I came across someone earlier, and I mean, we know there's stories going on everywhere. There's a police officer, I don't know if you've seen it, he's been speaking out in Australia. He's started some sort of program, it's called COVID for Police or something, where he's all for the people and saying that the police are all breaking the rules and they should be serving the people.
Brilliant.
These are the people that you want to talk to, and you want them to speak out, don't you? I mean,
absolutely right. The more people that can be exposed to that police officer, exposed to his or her experiences, you're absolutely right. That's the only way to do it. There was a letter written to, I saw this on Twitter today. I think a letter was written to UK Colin by a police officer, I believe, who explained that he and a lot of other police officers are pissed off with what they're being asked to do. Listen, they're out there, these people. You know, you were out there, Shelley. Yeah. I've heard from former nurses on the programme who came on to tell me, because they're in contact with nurses still working in the NHS. Of course, that's what it's all about now. Platform these people. You know, put your own ego and your own opinions to one side. You don't matter, really. Platform them. Let people hear them. And if they're talking bollocks, challenge them. You know, don't behave like Piers Morgan or anybody like that. But if they say something that you can challenge them. I think I challenged you once or twice when you were on and said, oh, you know, people might say whatever. That's, you know, but then I shut up and let you speak. Do that. And I didn't know about that police officer in Australia. I'm really glad to hear that. I'll get onto that now tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is about challenging everyone. And, you know, I'm hoping to get loads. I just wish people would just speak out, you know, and I keep hearing all these nurses are working so terribly hard. Well, come on, I want some of these nurses to come on the show and tell us what it's all like, because it's like I will say to her, I don't see myself as much as an arguer, putting an argument across. I like to ask a few questions, get somebody's story out. I'm not here to argue with your belief system and stuff. It's for you to share your story, so to speak.
Yeah. But you know what, Shelley? Do you know what's happening? I mean, yeah, people do want to speak out. But you were in the national press, and you know, kind of spiteful things were said about you. Now you seem to have a very thick skin and a great disposition, a great outlook. But a lot of people, that would scare the absolute bejesus out of them. You know, they think, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor. I'd like to say that there's a lot of bollocks being spouted, but I just saw a Daily Mail article. I saw this woman, Shelley Tasker, or somebody else, and they think, I don't want that. I don't want that humiliation. And that's a problem. That is a problem.
It is interesting because that video actually that I did, obviously I said to you on the show, I never expected it to happen like that. And that was only 2 days ago, showed in another country, Czechoslovakia News, I think it was, and it was all subtitled. So it's still doing the rounds now.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd think, why is somebody, because, well, I don't know, I suppose it was a big thing. And people said to me at the time, but to me, I did find that bit easy. I am quite thick-skinned, but then I do have my days off because I think I can't cope with all the negativity, you know. But
don't forget about the negativity. I say this all the time to radio presenters. And remember, I used to teach radio production. The only people in the world whose opinions should matter to you are the people you love, whether that's your friends or your family. What difference could it make? Now, I'm not saying this to you because I know you know this, but to anybody else who's listening, some arsehole with an avatar and a ridiculous name that he's made up, a ridiculous username, how could anything he says about you affect you? I mean, really? You know, I say to anybody who gets wound up, and I'm not in any way trying to kind of dilute the abuse you've had. I'm not. But I would say to anybody else, the only people's opinions who matter are those who you value yourself. I do sometimes, you know, mates do say to me sometimes, Richard, you see what that guy said? And I said, why would I, A, look at it, or B, why would I be moved by that? I've got a missus here, and I've got a very small family, and I've got an even smaller circle of friends. Their opinions matter because they're good people, and they'll pull me up when I'm being a bit of an idiot, which is most of the time. And if I'm a bit shit on the radio, they'll pull me up and say, you know, you shouldn't have said that, you should. And I listen carefully. But anybody else give me a break. I couldn't give a damn, you know. And I learned that from David Icke, to be fair. I learned that from David. David couldn't give a shit. I mean, some of the stuff that was said about him, couldn't give a damn.
What's your connection with David then? How do you know David Icke?
Just through interviewing him when I was doing the radio show in Spain years ago. I had some proper arguments with him on the radio. Brilliant radio, that. You know, you talk about Piers Morgan. I would give David the Piers Morgan treatment, but I would shut up and let him answer. You know, I would say, reptilians, really? The Queen? Diana? Television from the 80s, all that sort of stuff. And he would just laugh. And we would chat and chat and chat. And then eventually, because he was looking for presenters for the People's Voice, I went and worked with him. And during that time, we briefly lived together. What a missed opportunity that was. Me and my better half, my French better half, allowed David rent our spare room in London for a year. I mean, you think of, I'm trying to think of the names of these 80s sitcoms where you had people living together. It would have been the best reality TV show of all time if somebody had filmed it. But yeah, and then for a short, well, not for a short time, for the first couple of years of my radio show, it was regularly streamed on David's website, but I put a stop to that because there was a lot of confusion around, you know, that relationship where people were thinking that the radio show was basically a mouthpiece for David's website or for David, when that wasn't the truth at all. He just streamed it the way a lot of people stream it. It's streamed on a lot of websites that I don't even know about.
Right. Excuse me.
But great guy. Some of the stuff in some of the books over the years, some of the projections that he made, some of the things that he said might come true. I mean, it's bang on the money, and it's not vague stuff either. You know, it's fairly accurate stuff. So I've always had a lot of time for him. But yeah, he came to mind this evening because I mean, they basically tried to kill him in the early 1990s. Not literally tried to kill him, but I think they tried to get him to commit suicide. They went after him and his family, I think, in a way that has never really happened to anybody before or since. And after a couple of years of struggling with that, he learned to just laugh at it and kind of walk on by, you know. And I picked up a lot from that myself. I mean, I never get that sort of abuse anyway. But a couple of years ago, back in the summer of 2019, there was a real movement to try and get me into a bad place on Twitter, on social media. It went on for 3 days by groups. I was asked a question by a Jewish person, what do you think of the Holocaust? They were trying to set me up, and I gave an honest answer, because I'm always honest. I said... and
can we have that answer?
My answer was, I'm sick to fucking death of hearing about it. That didn't go down very well. And, of course, I knew what the reaction would be. You know, Holocaust denier, which is complete and utter bollocks, of course. I've never denied or claimed that the Holocaust never happened. I've been to Dachau in Germany. I've been to Auschwitz. I've been to Poland. But it got bad for a few days. My address and my photographs of my partner were put online. It got very serious. The police got involved. But I'd learned by then, and I didn't care. I just kept arguing with them on Twitter and giving back as good as I was getting. And that was the last time really I had to deal with any kind of real kind of shit, really. But and I tell people all the time, you know, never get bogged down by abuse, no matter how nasty it might get about you by some anonymous muppets on Twitter. Care about the people you care about. Their opinion should matter. They're the only people who should really be able to hurt you. You know, when you think about it. You know, Caroline, my missus, still has the power, sadly, to hurt me. She could criticise me and it might sting me a bit. That's the way it should be, but not anybody else.
Yeah. Is there a radio interview that you remember in particular that didn't go too well? We've all had bad ones.
Oh, yeah. Hundreds of them. Jesus,
one that springs to mind.
Oh, you know, you get them all, don't you? You get guests that are how do you say it? I have had one Guinness this evening, just the one now. How do you say it? Monosyllabic. Yeah, you get guests who've got very little to say.
Yeah.
You know, when you start out, God, that's terrifying when you start out. I mean, when you become more experienced, you don't care, and you can fill the time. But when I started out, I interviewed guests whose answers were very, very short, and my questions just kept becoming longer and longer and longer. And you're looking at the clock going, my God, I've got 10 more minutes to go here. I'm not getting anything out of this person. I did famously interview former Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams. And I made the absolutely grievous mistake of announcing him as Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams from Londonderry. Stone cold silence on the other end of the line. Hello there, Mr. Adams. Are you there? He said, Londonderry, is it? Now, luckily enough, I was pre-recording that, so I was able to stop it and start again. But the interview didn't go very well. He wasn't happy. So I'm like, so I started again on the line from Derry. It's Gerry Adams. So I've had a few, over the years, I had a 90-minute interview with a guy called Ken O'Keefe some years ago. That was very funny. Where I was asking Ken to account for some money that he'd crowdfunded and that he hadn't spent very wisely or misspent. And that was funny, but that wasn't a difficult interview. It was just car crash radio. It was just rubbish. I should have wound up after 15 minutes, but I left it go on for 90 minutes because the guy was, he wasn't doing himself any favours. But it's fun when it goes wrong, though, isn't it? Sometimes. Why not?
Well, yeah. I mean, most weeks I introduce this show, and I give the radio show name as blogspot.com, and I do it every week. And it's live, and it's like, oh, why is that word there? It's everything's.com, isn't it? But it always comes out.com.
Yeah, subscribe to that. I would subscribe to that in a heartbeat. Sign me up. I'm happy. I'm so bored of an evening now listening to Sky and BBC 24 with the same garbage. I'll take anything new. But listen, radio. It's great that you're doing radio and this platform. I'm going to pay a bit more attention to this platform from now on in. Radio is a far better medium at communicating a message to somebody than television ever was or ever will be. And I'm sure you know this, but maybe some of your listeners don't know. Because I get asked all the time, Richie, why don't you film it? Why don't you do what Talk Radio does or Radio 5? Stick a webcam in the studio. No, it's radio. When we listen to radio, because it's an intimate medium, it's a one-to-one medium. And I know your producer will know this. We listen harder, we pay more attention, our palms begin to sweat, and we ingest, we take in more of that information. So if I listen to you next Wednesday, and I will listen to you next Wednesday, and who you have on, I'm more likely to get what I'm being told, to understand it, than if I was looking at you on YouTube in a studio. And that's a fact, by the way. So I love radio. I'm in love with radio. And I never want to see anything happen to it. And I'm an ugly bastard as well, so it's better that I'm on radio and not on YouTube.
But you've got a beautiful accent. You can't beat the Irish.
It makes up for the looks. It makes up for the looks, yeah, I suppose. You can't have everything, Shelley.
You're not ugly, for God's sake.
And if you ever contact David Icke again, tell him about Shelley. Give her the .com thing, you know.
Yeah, well, David is a very gregarious and very accommodating bloke. I'm sure if you dropped him a contact message through davidicke.com or contacted his son Gareth on Twitter, who's a good mate of mine, and mentioned the show, he'd be happy to come on. David's a good guy.
I've got my my accomplice Jo Wood. She does all of the guest invites for rallies, and Gareth kindly came down and did the last rally for us, which was amazing. Yeah. So I mean, we were actually thinking about just doing a surprise visit on David, and like, we're not going to go until you agree to come and do a rally, but we decided against it. But no, so who is your inspiration, Richie? Is there someone that you listen to and it's like, they're my hero?
Yeah, I have a few, really. I mean, when I was listening to talk radio, when I was beginning to produce it, some of the presenters, people like Victoria Derbyshire, who still works for the BBC, I know she worked for the BBC in 2021, and I know that comes with problems and issues. I know that. But when she was presented mid-morning for Radio 5 Live years ago, she was a magnificent presenter. A Rolls Royce of a presenter. You know, never missing a beat, never missing anything that was said to her by an interviewee, asking good questions. She was terrific. I produced a man called Billy McCarthy, who's one of Ireland's greatest ever radio presenters. Billy's not with us any longer, sadly. He died suddenly a few years ago. These were brilliant broadcasters. They understood that the audience wasn't listening to hear their bullshit. The audience was listening vicariously through them. They were getting to understand they were getting to meet the guest through the presenter, who was a conduit for the information. These were great presenters. It was never about them. And I mean, I'm a big stickler for that. It gets on my tits these days, especially in the independent media, more than anything, where for many content creators, it's all about me, you know. It's all about the guest becomes a prop to elevate the presenter in the eyes of the audience. That's terrible, really. You know, you should really only be heard when it's necessary for you to be heard, when a question needs to be asked. And I was lucky to meet these presenters over the years. I didn't meet Victoria Derbyshire, but working with Billy McCarthy, a woman called Maria McCann, from Wicklow, who worked in Waterford, an amazing presenter, Carrie Crowley, Jerry Ryan, whose name you probably heard, worked for 2FM in Dublin for years. Jerry's one of the greatest broadcasters that ever lived. And again, sadly, Jerry died very young a few years ago. An amazing man. He basically brought mid-morning talk radio to Ireland's national airwaves. And in the early 1980s, Jerry had housewives predominantly phoning him in. This was never heard of in Ireland until he did it. Phoning him, talking to him about their issues and the things that matter to them. These were my inspirations, really. And I keep them in mind, you know, when I'm doing my radio shows and when I'm producing them. I wouldn't ever put myself on their level. But I aspire to be like those people. There's still some good presenters around. I like Julia on talk radio. I like her.
I like her.
Yeah, I like Julia. Yeah. It's just a shame that lately, I know a lot of pressure has been brought to bear lately on talk radio itself, you know, with the YouTube temporary ban and all of that. And Julia's reined it in a little bit. But when she was going after the PCR test some weeks ago and stuff like that, she was really nailing it. I mean, we nail it, but we don't have talk radios, I suppose. What's the word I'm looking for? Because I risk sounding very arrogant here now. My live listenership dwarfs the live listenership of talk radio's presenters. It really does. But it's all over the bloody world. It's everywhere. It's Ireland. It's America. It's Canada. But in the UK, I can't compete with talk radio. In the UK, I can't. I've got a very big listenership in the UK. And she was doing really well going after the PCR numbers. And I thought, keep going, girl. Don't take any shit. Keep going after them. But I don't know what you guys think. I think she's reined it in a bit in the last couple of weeks. And
I think talk radio have in general, to be fair. A few people have been saying that.
Yeah. And look, again, there but for the grace of God. And, what do we say? Walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. We all have bills to pay. Some of us, I don't, but some of us have children. I know you, Shelley, you're the one here who's got the right to say, screw that. You walked away and put yourself in danger. I respect that. But I do try and keep in mind for a lot of people, Julia Hartley-Brewer is a middle-class conservative who rubs shoulders with people like Michael Fallon. She goes out to lunch with Michael Fallon, the former defence secretary, who propositioned her maybe, or maybe he didn't. So she's in that circle. It doesn't make her a bad person, but it makes her who she is. And I suppose at some stage, maybe somebody will say, look, Julia, remember who you are. And I don't know. But she did it for a while, and that's good enough for me. And we can grow our audiences, and keep putting that out there. But I do like her. And look, technically, as a presenter, she's always been very good. When she was on LBC some years ago, she was a very good presenter. I sound like I'm virtue signaling to the ladies, don't I? Because I've mentioned quite a few women, but that's the truth. I'm not virtue signaling. Those are the presenters that come to mind.
No, it's great. It's great that as well that you can listen live again to these things. I'm a big UK column fan as well, and obviously your show. And yeah, you've got a massive following, haven't you? And you're every day now, aren't you? Monday to Friday. That's
right, Shelley. Yeah, look, it's taken a while to build those numbers up. It really has. It's not an idle boast when we call it the most listened to independent show in Europe. It is. I mean, on average, when I'm on air, we've got 175 to 200,000 listeners listening live on average daily. And I don't have to brag about the podcast numbers because anybody can see them. They need only go to Podomatic. But that took years.
Yeah.
That's taken 6 years to do that. And those numbers are dwarfed by InfoWars. I mean, I know Alex is as mad as a box of frogs. I'm well aware of it at the best of times. And I still love the guy. Kind of. I kind of still love him. But Alex will do, I mean, he'll get millions. So you can reach those numbers with professionalism, with a good product. I hate to refer to it as a product, but ultimately you are selling a product and you're selling yourself. You can build those numbers over a period of years. And I would be an absolute idiot if I didn't acknowledge that it didn't do me any harm in the first couple of years for David to be streaming it on his website. That was very helpful. I mean, I was known then to a degree because of what I was doing for Talk Radio Europe in Spain, where I was doing the conspiracy research radio show anyway. And I had a big listenership there and I had a big online listenership. But David obviously gave that a big boost by putting it on davidicke.com. And I'll forever be grateful for that and will never not acknowledge that. So it takes a bit of time. I wish that all of those listeners, by the way, were listening from the UK exclusively, Shelley and Nina. I really, and Charlie. I wish they were. Oh God, wouldn't that be great? But they're not. They're scattered all over the world. I think it's about 50 to 60,000 in the UK. And then it's scattered. Then it's around Ireland then and around America and around Canada and around parts of Australia. But it is what it is,
Do you get lots of fan mail and stuff?
No, I get emails through the website, from people saying, oh, I'd like to hear this person, Richie, or that person. But thank God, I don't get any emails saying, oh, you're great, Richie, and thank God for what you do. Because that's just bollocks, really. I don't do anything. I keep myself sane. By doing the radio show, I keep away from the precipice because I know I'm not mad. And by speaking to people like you and the other whistleblowers and the academics and listening to them, I can rest assured that I'm not mad. No, I don't get any fan mail, which is brilliant. And that's because for years I've been telling listeners to piss off, oh, thanks, Richie. I don't deserve any thanks. I don't need any thanks. I'm not special. I'm not important. And I never will be. And neither is David Icke. And neither is Alex Jones. And David Icke will tell you that himself. What's important is that information, Shelley, that you brought when you guested on the programme. That's all that matters, not the personalities or the egos. But as I said, in the independent media, we see too much of it. We see too much of people trying to make themselves the story. You're not the story. I'm just an ignorant Irish guy in Salford with an opinion sometimes, and a tiny bit of a talent for making radio. But I don't matter. The show matters, and the guests who come on matter. And I'm not kind of what's the word? What did they say in Liverpool? I'm not crying this in. This isn't a backhanded way of fishing for compliments. It isn't. Screw guys like me. I'm not going to refer to myself in the third person. Screw me. I'm doing what I should be doing, which is inviting people on that have got something interesting to say, and then end the show, put it online after you've done it live, and get the hell out of there and do another show the following day. So I get pretty passionate about that. It's the information. Ike always said to me, Shelley and Nina and Charlie, he always said, the information is the star, end of.
Yeah.
Screw the presenter.
Can I just say, Richie Allan, for the first time ever, and this is on the Shelley Tasker Show, you have actually got fan mail from Interlude.
A foreign name, I think.
Yeah, and they say richieallan.co.uk, absolute legend. So there you go, first time, mate.
I'm not having it. He should get a life.
But no,
I'm only joking. Yeah.
You need to accept though what you do as well for people, because you're getting their stories out. And last week, like I say, I've only got to get guests once a week, and I was hovering around, and I'm like, I'm going to email Richie, and you like emailed back within 10 minutes, and you're like, I'll be there with bells on, Shelley, and I'm like, whoa, guess who my guest is next week?
Yeah, but why not though? Who the hell am I? Who the hell would I be to say no to you? You know.
But who the hell are you not? Because people have this thing about not shining too bright. You know, it's good not to have an ego, but ultimately you can be proud of what you do and what you're achieving, because you do a lot of great work by getting those people on your show.
There is one nice thing, Shelley. I'll take this. Lately, we've been hearing a bit from people. I interviewed Peter Ebdon on the show last night. People will know Peter as a world snooker champion and a healer. He got into healing towards the end of his career, and he's a lovely gentleman, Peter. And there is something I will take, and I'm glad of, and that is that we've had quite a bit of contact from people in recent months who said that they weren't doing very well, that they weren't feeling well with everything that was going on, but that at 5 o'clock Monday to Thursday, they know they've got someplace to go where they can be assured that they're not going stark raving mad. And that did make me, I suppose, feel good and kind of happy. And I took that, it's not a compliment as such, but I thought, right, okay, I get that. These are so scary times for people. And it's wretched to be in a community where everybody's running around masked up and everybody is obediently doing whatever they're told. So, yeah, I suppose I can understand that for some people at 5 o'clock, well, I listen to this guy, this Irish guy. I mightn't agree with everything he says, but at least he doesn't tell me I'm crazy. Mm-hmm. You know, whereas I'm listening to kind of mainstream media, and I'm told that I'm a bad person for not complying. I'm told that I'm killing people for not wearing a mask. So that's a nice thing. It's a nice thing that for some people that really are struggling with, I don't want to say their mental health, but you know, they're under the hammer a bit. Yeah. And if they feel that there's an oasis for them at 5 o'clock, well, yeah, great. I'm happy about that.
They do, and it does bring it to light. I mean, I said to Charlie just now before we started, do you ever get moments when you feel, actually, perhaps I'm wrong and everybody else is right? Because you're so in the minority. Yeah. You're going crazy. It's like, no, I am right, because it's in my heart. Yeah. I feel it in my heart, so I can't go against that.
Yeah.
Great question, isn't it? Yeah, it does. I do sometimes wonder. I do. Of course you do. I sometimes wonder, am I dreaming this? And then I think, if I'm not dreaming it, am I wrong? You know, have I misread this completely because of other things that have happened? You know, because things we've covered over the years, 9/11, of course, 9/11, September 11th. Excuse me, things we know to be, well, we demonstrably false. We know these things were staged, especially September 11th and other things. So I do say to myself, have you gone down the rabbit hole too far? You know, are you wrong about the virus? Yeah. And that's a good thing. It's no harm to doubt, you know.
Yeah.
It's how it should be. Any reasonable person shouldn't be so stubborn that they walk around, they go about thinking all the time that they're right and everybody else is wrong. So of course I have these moments, absolutely.
Well, we are closing up, and I know you originally said like half an hour, Richie, so I'm really grateful. But Nina's got a quick question to ask you before we let you carry on with your evening.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because earlier you were saying you don't really believe in Q, and I'm very sceptical of it myself, but you did also say that sometimes you think there's no hope, and then other times you'll think that we might get out of this. So what have you got hope on at the moment? Because I know a lot of people got this hope on Q, but it all seems a bit airy-fairy to me. But have you got anything else?
Well, I interviewed Ryan Christian from thelastAmericanVagabond.com earlier today. He's a really lovely bloke and a very good presenter. And Ryan said to me that he's begun to believe, Nina, that we all know that there is a psychological operation being waged against us. We know this. But Ryan said, I'm beginning to think, Richie, that the majority of people actually know that something is very wrong. So on this program tonight, we've said that we believe we're in the minority and that the majority believe in the virus and the masks and the vaccines. But Ryan said to me, I actually believe that the majority know the truth and that the media is working very hard to convince them, to convince us that we are the minority when in fact we're the majority. So that's a little bit of hope for today, because if he's right, if that is true, well, there is a great chance for us if the majority know that this is basically bollocks, which we know it is. So that's the little bit of hope I would offer today. And you know yourself, Nina, you know, it depends on where you are. I could be out walking the dogs and a bus could pass me and I could see people staring blankly into space with the masks on. And that depresses you. And you think, oh, we're fucked. And then 5 minutes later, you hear of somebody doing something good. And you see a good interview and you think, oh, we've got a chance. So anyway.
It's like a roller coaster, isn't it, at the minute?
It is a roller coaster. Absolutely right.
Great point, by the way. I found that really good to know, actually, that he said that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, me too.
But before you go, Richie, so are you doing a show on a Sunday now as well?
Well, this is a funny thing. I was going to quit the radio show back in November entirely because I was so sick of it. And yeah, I really was, yeah. And I was just going to give it up. And I was out and about on Sunday morning. And I was remembering a radio show from my radio station in Waterford, WLRFM, which went out called Sunday Morning Melodies, where a very senior gentleman who's no longer with us, called Tony. Tony used to present this show. It was a bit like Force's Favourites. He would play songs from the 40s, 50s and 60s. Mario Lanza, you know, Frank Sinatra, Nina Simone, all this sort of stuff. And it was beautiful. And he would do dedications for older people and people in hospital. And it was beautiful. So this Sunday morning that I was going to quit the radio show, and I'm not really impulsive, I really was going to quit it. I announced on Facebook that I was going on air. And I had no business going on air because I wasn't due to be on. Because I gave up the Sunday morning newspaper review a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, but some time ago. So I went on air short notice. And I did this show and I played all these songs. And it basically kept me, it kept me not alive, but it kept me going, really. It re-enthused me, it reinvigorated my love for radio and my passion for it. And I thought no more about it, and I'd done a similar show on Christmas Day. So from now on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, I'm going to do a show where coronavirus won't be mentioned. And I'll just be playing songs from the 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, and just chatting about those songs and channeling those old-time radio shows that our grandparents used to listen to. So there you are.
Oh, lovely.
That sounds lovely. It'd be lovely because, like, you can't listen to any radio station without a bloody advert for coronavirus.
That's right.
Get away from it. Anyway, we better round up there, Richie. So all of you out there listening, I'm sure you know, it's Richie Allan from The Richie Allan Show. He's on Monday to Thursdays, 5 o'clock till 7, and a new stint on Sunday. So thank you so much for being a guest, Richie. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, and
Not at all. I loved it, and thanks to you and to Charlie and to Nina and Gary. It's Gary, of course, isn't it? Gary in the background there.
Graham, sorry,
Yeah.
Graham.
Oh,
Yeah.
Graham, not Gary. Excuse me. Of course, Graham. That's right. No, thanks for inviting me. And you know what you're doing there. It sounds great. So keep doing it.
Thank
And if there's ever anybody you hear on our radio show and you think, oh, they'd be a nice fit, don't be shy. Just reach out, and where we can make the connection, we'll make the connection.
Shouldn't have said that.
Oh no, listen, I'm a man of my word. Don't worry about it.
No, likewise.
By
Thank
the
you,
way,
Richie.
yeah, Nina here, really great to speak to you. Thanks so much. And me and Charlie do this thing called Martha the Marshal, which is a bit of light-heartedness. If you ever want to check us out on Facebook and YouTube, it's just a bit of a P-tape, basically, of everything that's been happening.
With the coronavirus, we'll have to send you a link for a bit.
Yeah.
Sounds like I could use that. Do send me a link and I'll get straight on it.
All right, Richie, we're great to talk to you, and I'll speak soon.
Speak soon. God bless.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Right, listeners, that was a great first hour. We're just going to have a bit of a song break in a minute, so you can all grab a cup of tea or go and have a wee or what have you. We'll be back in a few minutes with our guest, Melonia Hope, who will be talking about home education. She's an ex-NHS nurse. Speak to you in a few minutes. Welcome back to the Shelley Tasker Show here on Cornwall Revolution Radio, alongside myself, co-host Charlie Rainbow, and via Skype, Nina Eilertson. Our next guest of the evening is Melonia Hope, who is an ex-NHS nurse, home educator, and a oil therapist. I probably got that wrong. Welcome to the show, Melonia.
Hello, Shelley. Thank you for having me.
It's very nice to have you on. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you.
Good. We met a while ago at one of these home education groups when I was looking into it, and we chatted a bit. And at the moment, with lockdown and stuff, lots of us are facing home learning and stuff, and we just had lots to talk about. And I just had lots of questions to ask you, so I thought you'd be a great guest to come on. So give us a bit of a background, Mel. How many children have you got? What are their ages?
I've got 4 children. They're all between 6 and my eldest is 13.
Right.
We've always home educated right from the beginning, so none of them have ever been to school. And we're very happy about that. All of us.
End of interview.
Yeah.
So you was an ex-NHS nurse as well. When did you give this up?
I left nursing when my eldest was born, because we had a bit of a dispute about my hours, and so I kind of took them to a tribunal, and then I left when he was 1. So I just didn't want to kind of miss out on all his milestones. I didn't want to leave him at childminders while I was working till 10 at night. I mean, he'd be a baby in a childminders till 10 at night. It was just ridiculous. So I never thought I wanted to kind of go all the way and be like a practitioner, do a master's. I wanted to do all of that. I was really career minded. But then having him, I just realised I just had this feeling I did not want to leave him with anyone. I didn't want to leave him in a play school. I didn't want him put on any stupid naughty steps or anything like that. So it all started with that, really.
Right.
So yeah.
So sorry, tongue tie now. So when did you make the decision then to homeschool? And was you homeschooled yourself?
No, I wasn't. No, I went to a girls' school, actually. It's a good education. I never liked it, really. I've got all the qualifications. But yeah, I mean, I decided to home educate when he was about 6 months, and I basically did so much reading into how children learn, how educational works. Real life experience has shown me that qualifications don't mean anything in life. So yeah, just a whole kind of being able to stop work and have that time where I'm not just constantly working gave me that time to really think a bit about life and research it all and realise it's not all about the treadmill, really.
Of course, yeah. And then you went on to have 3 more children.
Yeah.
And they're all, I mean, so your eldest is how old did you say?
He's 13 now.
He's 13. So when do you start? How does it kind of work? Because I've heard people say about deschooling, unschooling. What do you as a home educator, give us a day, like what is the day in the life of a home education scenario?
Well, it's very different for everyone. Everybody will do it in a different way, and we do it in a very radical way. I'm quite an all or nothing person. So it's some people, I mean, the first book I read that really inspired me was called Free Range Learning. And what I really loved about it was there's so many different ways to do it. And there's no kind of like one way fits everyone with everything in life. Different things suit different people. And it took us a while to kind of come across this approach and then really trust it and just really go for it. But we don't have any typical days. We don't do any set sitting down studying. They get the younger two get up a bit earlier than me, and they just go down and play now. They didn't when they were younger. They used to come and jump all over me, obviously. But now they're a bit older. They just go down. The older two, I mean, my second child doesn't have to drag him out of bed at midday. He's not a morning person like me. So he'd sleep all day really if we could. So yeah, they're all just different. It's all about really kind of seeing them all as individuals and just we just do our own thing really.
So how would you approach the basis then, like reading, writing, like with your eldest? I presume he can read and write. And you had to teach him that.
Well, yeah, we didn't really. It's not a priority for us, reading and writing, which sounds really, really extreme, because that's what schools were originally created to get people to read and write. And for us, it's not how learning happens really. We kind of approach it in a really, really different way. And my eldest actually didn't learn to read till he was 12. Yeah, so, and I was never worried. I was a little bit worried, but there's within unschooling, there's a lot of reassurance that children will do it. They will do it when they're ready. And with like unschooling children, they learn to read when, first of all, they're developmentally ready. So all children are ready to read at different ages and stages in their life. And there's a lot in schools. There's a lot of like forcing young children to read, and they're just really not ready for it, and it completely demoralizes them, and just makes them feel like they're hopeless. And it's no measure on intelligence when a child can read. I mean, I could read when I was really young. I was about 3, and then everyone else caught up with me. So I knew from my own personal experience, it doesn't mean you're any cleverer than anyone else if you can read when you're young. And also the second factor for learning to read is when it's useful to them. So my eldest, we just read things for him. We helped him, we read stories to him, we helped him with everything that he was doing, so he didn't really need to. And then he decided at one point he wanted to learn to code, and that was important to him. So he was like, right, I really want to. So we, because his brain is probably wired differently to most, well, not to most, but to the way that traditional education focuses on, traditional ways of reading wouldn't work for him. So like phonics and memorizing and all that kind of stuff really didn't work for him at all. But we found a system called the Easy Read system, which is a computer like 10 minutes a day of reading, and it's based on learning through symbols. He's a very visual learner. Yeah, and it took about, I don't know, we did it for a year, but within 6 months he was reading, and he's completely fluent now. And the thing is with like unschooled children, when they're reading when they're ready, like quite often with school children, they'll start reading and then they're only reading like 3 or 4 lettered words, very, very simple ones, and it takes quite a while to progress. But when you're reading when you're developmentally ready, you just read. So 1 minute you can't read, and the next minute you're reading like Harry Potter or something kind of thing, just more complicated things. So it just doesn't take as long when they're ready.
Sure,
so,
I totally get that, yeah.
But my younger one, 2 of my younger ones, they just started reading. So I was reading to them and they'd point to a word and say, oh, that says that. And then the next thing, they were reading fluently. So that saved us some money. So yeah, it just goes to show how all children are completely unique with how they learn, which is where school fails a lot of children.
And was there a specific reason you didn't want to put them through the system?
Initially, I just thought it sounds quite fun to do at homeschool. And then I was, the fact that primary school children have homework. I mean, I never had homework when I was younger. I had it when I was at secondary school, but I'd never do it because I just didn't want to. Yeah, I thought, God, that's too much, isn't it? Homework when you're 5 or 6 years old. So that was the thing for me that was like, no, I'm not doing it. And then the more I learned and read, the more it kind of made sense not to. And then I did the I unschooled my mind. So I unschooled my whole way of thinking about learning and education. And and that's why I realised that for us, it's completely not necessary.
It's fascinating because I mean, there's so many people struggling at the moment, and I see people like posting up stuff on Facebook. Oh, is anybody else having struggle getting theirs to do this and do that? And I mean, this time round, I found it easier, but I am kind of thinking this is the third lockdown now, and I have said to Piran, if this is a success and we can do the minimal amount and it can work, then I'd love it to work, because I'd love to think that he doesn't have to go through that system, because I like to think he can play and enjoy being a child. It's gone too quick, isn't it? I mean, being in the school system is almost like a 9 till 5 job, isn't it? Well, it is really. They've got to go, haven't they? Well, they haven't got. Yeah.
Yeah. If you choose for them to go to school, then they have to go, don't they? And they have to follow their rules. But yeah, the on home learning sounds horrendous. It just sounds absolutely horrendous. None of mine would do it. They've always been very strong in what they will and what they won't do, and it would just be horrendous. It wouldn't work for us at all.
So, like, will yours do like GCSEs and things like that?
I don't know. Children now aren't doing GCSEs, are they? They've all been cancelled.
Might not ever change, actually.
Exactly. I mean, it's all a system that's crumbling in front of our eyes. Government's decided they're not that important if they're just cancelling it like that. If they want to do them, they can. If they need to do if they want to do a certain job that they need like maths and English for, you can easily arrange it out of school. But it's only if they want to. I'm not going to be like, now it's time to do your GCSEs.
No, and how?
Oh, I think we've been cut off. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm a basic believer that as long as you can read and write and do the basic maths, you can get through. I'm not a qualification believer at all. But so many people have it drained into them. That's the wrong word, isn't it? But if you go to an interview and that person's got 10 GCSEs and you've got one, that they'll be chosen. And I mean, unfortunately, we are in a bit of a system like that. But I suppose if they're older and they'll have more time to experience, because they're not at school, they're learning about things that they actually enjoy doing. So by the time they get a bit older, I presume that they would know which way they want to go rather than do subjects that don't interest them and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. They won't. Yeah, I mean, it depends what they want. It depends on what they want to do. If they decide when they're young, they know what they want to do with their life. Not many people do. I definitely didn't. And then we can help them go in that direction. But really, what we're doing is just focusing on. It's not on education. That's not our focus at all. It's helping them be who they are as people, and just help them grow into who they're meant to be, basically. And any kind of learning is just a side effect of that, really.
And do they ever ask and say they want to go to school?
No.
No, well, this is what I say to Piran. Would you like to do a little bit of work at home with mummy, or would you like to spend all day in a classroom? And he's like, at home with mummy. But the last lockdown, he didn't, he was missing friends and he needed that social side. And when I took him to school, he ran up and down the classroom. He was so pleased. But I think after this, there's going to be a lot of people actually that are going to decide to keep their children out of school because of the whole mask wearing and all the new rules of parents having to wear masks when they collect them and stuff. They just don't want their children indoctrinated with that stuff. I don't, but my only concern is my mental health and can I do it? But then I look at people like you that you've got your own business, you've got 4 children, and you make it seem like you never crack, Mel. You never crack.
Well, it's this way of doing it is different. There's no pressure on anyone. So honestly, the children are happy because they're all happy, and there's no pressure on them to do anything that they don't want to do. Then it's really easy going in our house. There really isn't much stress at all, except when I get stressed when it's messy.
And I can imagine with 4 children, it must be.
Yeah, it does get messy because I don't really like cleaning either. So, I know, yeah, it can get a bit messy, but other than that, we're very chilled. So, yeah, so it's not hard. It's not hard. Depends how hard you want to make life, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And you have to, I have to be realistic earlier. I've had a lounge full of Playmobil when it stresses me right out. But then I'm like, oh, let them be little and play. I love it. It's only mess. And I think, unfortunately, if you've got children, toys is part of their life, isn't it? And it's only for a short period of time, really.
Yeah, very short. Yeah. So
do you do lots of group activities? Obviously not, well, it's probably in the last year you've not done much with them, but do you like venture out with other clubs and groups and stuff like that?
Well, we kind of did sometimes, but my older two didn't really like the home ed groups very much. They would just like walk off from everyone, so it just wasn't much point really. But we've got like other friends, so they're not like don't see anyone. We've got friends who go to school. Some friends that don't go to school, and we kind of do better just meeting up with individual families. They do activities, they do gymnastics, they do martial arts, so they've got a little bit of a focus with that, and they meet other children. And it's not like some people do, some children are really extrovert and they really need that, and there's so much for them if they are like that. There's so many groups and opportunities to meet people, and that's the thing which a lot of people say about school. They think it's like socialisation, whereas they don't as far as I'm aware, they don't really give children much chance to socialise at school anymore. Especially at the moment when they have to wear a mask between each classroom. And it's very artificial, so they're all like put in a classroom of children of the same age, children with all different interests. It might be children that they hate, but they're stuck with them. And with this, my children all have like their different friends with different. They choose their friends based on who they like, so they hang around with who they like. That's to me that's better socialisation than hanging around a load of people they don't really like.
Yeah, it's true. My ex would say, well, they need to learn certain skills, how to get on with people. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be in a classroom to do that. Children, when they mix, they find out who they are just like we are as adults, really, don't they?
Yeah. I don't think you learn anything from not being happy. That's the kind of like basis of what we do is like meeting their basic needs, them being happy, and then learning comes on top of that. And you don't learn any good social skills being forced into them. Sure.
So, and because you have your own business, obviously it's an option, isn't it? For a lot of people, it's like, well, obviously you need a parent to be at home if you're going to homeschool. And I suppose the factor weighs in, doesn't it? Can I realistically afford, well, to stay at home and be a mum and teach my children? But there's means and ways, I suppose.
Obviously the government's like created this system where people need to work.
Exactly.
That's been quite deliberate, I think, to separate children from their mums. But there are ways. There's so many ways you can earn money from home. There are, and there's. My mum used to take me. She used to do cleaning jobs, and we just used to go. I was at school, but when we were on school holidays, she'd just take us with her. So there's always a way. There's always a way around these things, I think.
Yeah, if you want it bad enough, definitely. I've not really worked properly for the last few months. I'm managing, and I will. I've said to you before, I'm going to try and start my own little business. I only want a couple of people a week that want their shopping done or a bit of cleaning. I'm not, I'd rather be at home with my son, and not working 12-hour shifts means I can take him to school and pick him up from school. But I would realistically like to think that I could keep him off school. It will be a bit of an argument with his dad, but I do think if that's what Piran wants, then ultimately, I'm going to have an argument on my hands no matter what, because we don't agree on anything. But we'll just weigh that out. So tell me about your job, Mal. What is it that you do from home?
So I have a essential oil business I basically sell oils from a company called doTERRA, and I just help people with health problems, pick the right oils to help them with those health problems. But for me, it's all about separating yourself from the pharmaceutical system. I'm just really against it more than ever now, and I know there's so many more ways and means to look after yourself, be proactive and take responsibility for your own health, and you can totally do that with natural remedies, and that's what I'm kind of like all about helping people do. But it's like meeting them where they are with that. So if it's just like helping someone with a tummy issue, there's oils to help with that, so people don't need to take PPIs which are really like have long-term health problems and things like that. So it's all about kind of, yeah, my real goal is to help people be less reliant on pharmaceuticals and use more natural ways to stay healthy.
Definitely. And I think we're all like going down that route, aren't we? Because we can't see a bloody doctor anyway.
Yes, exactly. You don't want to be dependent on them. You don't want to be dependent on anyone else for your health. It's all up. It's down to you. And yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the doctors for over 6 years, thank goodness. And hopefully we never will need to see them. And I will do everything that I can to avoid seeing a doctor for anything, basically. So I've got some.
What was the brand of those essential oils, Mel?
It's called doTERRA.
I think someone I used to know, someone I know was talking about them ages ago and saying how brilliant they are.
They are brilliant. They are the best. They are the best.
Thing that you take out of my drawers sometimes, Nina, when you're here.
Once.
That was one of those oils that I got from Mel.
Yeah.
And they do work, don't they? They really do.
They really work. Most pharmaceuticals are isolated from plants. So, and essential oils are complete pure extracts from plants. So they're better than pharmaceuticals because they are completely natural, whereas the pharmaceuticals are like the chemical version of them. So.
Are these the ones that you can take internally? Because this friend of mine before was saying you take these ones internally if it's the same ones.
Some of them you can. Yes, most of them you can. Yeah, so you add them to your water. If you're not feeling very well, there's little capsules you can get, and you can add.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you learn that then when the little ones were at home, when they were little? Well, obviously they're at home all the time, but you did your nursing, and then it was like you just found another approach.
Yeah, so I wanted to have my own business after I left nursing. So I started off with a jewellery business. And then I just kind of I was always using natural things anyway. Since my eldest was born, I've used natural remedies for absolutely everything. We started homeopathy, which has been amazing. My eldest got reactive arthritis when he was 3. And we completely treated him with homeopathy and herbs, and he's completely healthy now. Whereas his cousin, his parents, who got exactly the same issue, his parents put her on chemo drugs. So she's going to have all kinds of long-term health effects from that for exactly the same condition. So we've really experimented with loads of different things. My third son, it was very much sounded like he had asthma. The GPs gave him an inhaler, and I didn't give him the inhaler, and we went to see our homeopath. He gave him a remedy, and it got rid of it the next day, and he's never had a problem since. So we've really used natural remedies for 13 years now. So I'm just trying and testing everything myself, really. So it's quite fun.
Yeah, it is, and they do work, don't they? I mean, I've been taking a series of medications for gut problems, and I was on the pharmaceutical side of it, and they were massive prescriptions each month. And somebody I know put me onto all these things like elm bark and stuff like that. And I'm going to touch wood now. It's gone. It's gone. And, for 2 or 3 years, I've had this cough and everything. But I might keep the omeprazole there for the occasional thing. But I just need to get some different, my new favourite shop is kind of Holland and Barrett. We try to seek the alternative all the time now.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, how would you? I'm supposing now, obviously, nursing would be. You weren't desperate to get back when they were calling all the ex-nurses to come in at the start of this pandemic. And Mel,
well, when I first heard about it, I thought it might well be real, and so I did look it up on the website to see if I could. I was willing to help out if there was a state of emergency when people were dying everywhere and they needed help, I was really willing to do that. I still would without a mask as well, funnily enough. I would happily do it. And there's still parts of nursing that's really, you know, useful. But there's I couldn't really do it. There's certain parts of it I absolutely couldn't align with.
You wouldn't fare well doing COVID swabs and giving COVID vaccination, would you?
No, not very. I've never been very good at obeying the rules. So no, that would not work with me at all. But I would help people if they needed help, medical help, but I wouldn't do that sort of stuff.
Sure. So, I mean, like, what do you think to these nurses at the moment? Do you think a lot of them are struggling and know what they're doing is, well, not healthcare anymore?
I don't know. I was chatting to I've got a lovely friend who does bank in Bristol, and we were she sees it the way everybody else, the way we see it. And yeah, she's not getting through to anyone either, really. But I do have other friends who really believe it. And the thing is, people are ill. People are getting ill with something, and they are. I think what we really need is a bridge at the moment to stop the division. Although I do get frustrated if we believe that nurses are just there doing TikTok videos and covering it all up just so they can keep their jobs, then that's not good. But I don't think that's the case. I think we need to kind of find some kind of bridge between them, because they're ultimately being used by the government for their propaganda at the moment. Some of them might feel quite good about that, but I know the majority of nurses that I used to work with are good people. So it's just finding that common ground with them, I think, is important at the moment. I don't know how to do it, though, because it's just so divisive. If you say
massive. I mean, like, you know, I know we had this conversation before about mask wearing and like people that come around from operations and stuff and a mask on their face.
Yeah. I know. I saw a photo of somebody who'd had a vaccine reaction, and she had a mask on her face, and she'd been in like a fast tachycardia of over 200, and like you'd put oxygen on someone, not a mask. I just don't understand that kind of thing. I really, really don't. I would not be able to cope with old elderly people on a ward with masks on when they need oxygen. It's crazy. It really, really doesn't make sense. I don't know how they're not seeing that at all, but I think
they must be seeing it, but it's protocol and they've got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, when I was working, patients weren't being forced to wear masks, but now they are. And when I was in a few weeks ago, I went in without a mask, but I woke up after my operation with a mask on, and it was awful. I mean, if I was in my right mind, I would have kicked off, but obviously I was very subdued. Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? Sorry. Obviously, they know what happened.
Like, how many people wake up from an anaesthetic vomiting and they've shoved it on your face? I mean, you could be aspirating it. It's just it's really dangerous, and I don't understand. I mean, I'm obviously 13 years out of it, so I don't understand how it's happening. But when I worked, no one would have stood for that. So just stay on now.
The CPR thing has changed. You've got to put a towel over their head.
Yeah.
And then do something with their body, haven't you?
Well, the thing is with that, and I think that might be being misinterpreted by a lot of people, is when someone has had a cardiac arrest and they're not breathing, sticking a towel over their face won't matter. And I think that is kind of the theory behind it. But I think the problem is that some people might have thought someone's not breathing and they might be breathing. And obviously, lots of people after they've fainted will wake up vomiting. Lots of people who might have collapsed from drugs or alcohol will wake up vomiting. And if they've got like a towel over their face, they'll just aspirate it. Yeah. So I don't think that's
it. What you need to do is turn over quickly, because if you take that stick back in, you can easily die from that.
Yeah, it's really don't you cause pneumonia from that. So die quickly or die for a couple of weeks. But I don't think it's to kill people off.
No.
Oh no, I didn't think that. I just thought it was a really odd thing. Growing up, I was taught you put mouth to mouth. You do this thing like you let them breathe and you try to put mouth to mouth, and then you do the stomach version. Yeah. And then to be taught that and then see a towel over their face, it just seems a bit
I don't quite get
weird.
It changed before that. It was still, when I was still nursing, we would still, well, there's basic first aid, you would still do mouth to mouth, but that stopped because people were doing it wrong. And the most important thing is people get the circulation through the compressions. So they just wanted to simplify it with first aid. So people just focus on doing the chest compressions, which would be better kind of for the result. So I do keep seeing that image and everyone getting upset about it.
Yeah, I mentioned, well, instead of the towel going over, why don't you just put a pillow over there and be done with it, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it must be scary times working in the hospital. Part of me thinks I should complain, but I'm just a bit beyond it. A part of me thinks they knew who I was and they thought, right, we'll have her while she's under. But
they probably took photos of you.
Yeah, they probably did. And it was really funny actually, because when I had my hair done, when we first went out of lockdown, the lady knew. And I mean, she's a lovely lady, sticking to the rules and everything, but she likes to take a photo of the back of your head. And I was like, you can only put this on Facebook if you've got the back of my head. Do not put a photo of me wearing a mask. And I felt really anxious driving all the way there because that is the only time I've worn a mask since all of this, because I wanted my hair done. And now, fortunately, I found a hairdresser that will come to me and I don't need to wear a mask. So going back to the old COVID stuff, what is your family's view on that? Your husband and stuff? Is their jobs affected?
So no. Well, you have to be kind of careful what I say. I haven't really got any family. Well, my brother's a plumber, so he's self-employed, so his job's not affected. I don't know what my dad does, to be honest. I never have done. He just does his own thing. Husband-wise, he's got a he's got a stable job, but I can't really talk about it at the moment.
Okay, it's fair enough. There's lots of that going on. I can't really talk about it. So we all know there's COVID restrictions and people are fighting and stuff. But it's not for that reason that I can't talk about it. It's just because of Donald's important work. Okay, all right, don't worry. We'll skip on.
Yeah.
So will you all be having the vaccination, Mel?
Yes. No. Of course not. No, I'd rather be shot, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, bless you. So back to the homeschooling now again. So with your children now, where are they at? Have they been obviously they've been affected because they can't go out and do their clubs and stuff like that. But what do they know? Because obviously they're brought up with your side of things. They haven't been indoctrinated in any way, shape or form. Whereas my one was coming out of school, washing his hands and the virus. And your children are living free as can be, I presume.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've discussed it with them and they watch YouTube and stuff. So, I mean, my youngest told me there was an advert the other day of someone dying of COVID in hospital. So they do get it infiltrated to them. But yeah, we've always really, because we've been very free with what they have access to and what they learn from, we trust them and we like question what they're watching. And I think my eldest showed me a video earlier on that was laughing at eating food to keep you healthy and things like that, and we just sort of discern. It's just like helping them learn how to discern information. Part of the thing with unschooling is that I don't want, well, obviously I would like them to have the same view as me, but they are their own people. So they've got to form their own opinions. So when we see things, we just question them and help them decide. But yeah, no, they're completely free. They don't understand. We talk about mask wearing and how they don't work, but they're just such decent people. They're never going to like I even said, I was just saying something silly like a hoax to my eldest, and he's like, no, you shouldn't say that. And he had a really good reasoning for it. So they're just decent, and they're reining me in a bit, really, which is quite a good thing. Helping me be more decent as a person. But yeah, no, their lives aren't that different. Obviously, wintertime we don't do much anyway. They're just missing out on their soft play and swimming, which they love, and they're having to do their activities on Zoom, which they don't like at all. So that's not pleasant for them. But their friends will still see friends. We're not kind of, luckily our friends will see us still, so it's all okay. It's all good.
What sort of activities do they do on Zoom then?
Gymnastics and martial arts.
How on earth do you do that on Zoom?
I know. It's not the best. I mean, the teachers do their absolute best to make it fun and interesting for them. But can you imagine 4 children doing martial arts in one room?
Toys everywhere.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not good. But we're gonna. Last lockdown, we just didn't bother. We just thought, sort it. Yeah. But this time, I just need a little bit of personal discipline, really. So they've got some fitness, and just that reason, we're just encouraging them to do that.
Do you have much routine then with the home education stuff?
Okay. No routine at all.
Right.
See, I like that.
Yeah.
I like. I think it was yesterday morning. Piran he woke me up at 9:45. Lovely. And then you feel bad because he's like, can you go in the loft and get all the Playmobil and stuff? And it's like, well, I've just woken up, and I'm thinking he's been awake for hours.
Yeah, Mum bring me up a coffee. It's great.
Yeah, well, see, that's what I need to do next. And I have told Piran that, but I'm a bit worried about him handling a kettle yet. I'm just worried. I see accidents everywhere at the moment. Yeah. So
yeah, just get one of those Tassimo machines. That's what
I think I've got one here somewhere, actually. Well, there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, they just use that. I mean, my youngest would use a kettle, but my eldest would be a nightmare because he's just too clumsy. But yeah, Tassimo.
Doesn't write anything, yeah.
And it all goes. Everyone used to be all environmentally worried about those because of all the plastic in the sea. In Cornwall, all our waste goes to an incinerator. And it's all dealt with very environmentally friendly. The only toxic chemicals that come out is just hot air. Hot air comes out at the top of it. So don't worry about that.
So you're basically saying then, Mel, that all our recycling is a waste of time?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And I know you mentioned this to me before when we had a chat, and I recycled religiously. I was ripping plastic off cardboard, and since you told me that, I don't recycle anything.
I think they send all the recycling to China or something, don't they? And so obviously that's much more inefficient. So yeah, just chuck it in the bin.
It's crazy. What is the council's idea behind that then?
It's so much political pressure, isn't there, for the green carbon agenda?
Yeah.
Do you think it's about control?
It's just politics, isn't it? I don't know what it's about really, but it's that kind of whole theme of everyone having to recycle and
yeah.
And I wonder if they actually know that it doesn't get recycled. I'm going to ask them next time they come.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, ask them. I mean, I'm not saying just be like a throwaway person kind of thing, but just don't worry too much about your recycling. It's still good to fix things and reuse them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, not worry too much about a little bit of comfort like a cappuccino.
Oh god.
So all our waste basically goes to an incinerator.
Yeah. And look into it. Please do.
I remember there was loads of uproar about this incinerator and it being bad, but I'm thinking what's that about? Because apparently it's so hot that it doesn't cause any problems.
It doesn't, and the waste product from it are minuscule. Really, it doesn't. There's hardly any landfill from it at all. It's really tiny.
All this stress they're putting people through, worrying about recycling and how bad our landfills filling up. It's all for nothing, really, isn't it?
It is around here anyway. I don't know. It's obviously not the same everywhere, but here, it is. But it was only through my husband talking to someone who works for them that we found that out.
Yeah.
Well, as talking to peers before, I know a lot of people think, well, good and bad. I say it wrong, Greta or Gretna? Greta, isn't it? Or Greta.
Yeah.
And we do have no, what's the word? No worries actually about the planet and stuff like that. It's all bullshit, basically.
No. Oh, I was looking into her the other night. Have a look on DuckDuckGo, and there's a photo of someone who looked exactly the same as her 100 years ago.
Ooh.
Whole rabbit hole around her that you can dive down into. You can't sleep one night.
That's interesting. We keep going down rabbit holes, don't we?
Yeah.
So do you enforce, well, not enforce, because everything's obviously very relaxed, which I love in your house. Do you have any like religious aspects?
No, religious. No, I'm starting to get into religion personally. I'm living and learning, but I'm not going to impose anything that doesn't feel right to anyone else. I might tell them, but we're not going to start doing Bible practice yet.
Yet. So you say you're just getting into religion personally. I think a lot of us are actually. Do you think it's this whole virus that's driven you to this, the way the world is at the moment?
It's just it's the learning, isn't it, that's come about from it all. Just non-stop learning and opening your mind to things. I was very closed-minded about religion because I was like Catholic when I was younger. Had a communion and whatever the next thing is. So yeah, I was brought up a Catholic, and I left all that, and I just used to think anyone who's religious, I just used to laugh at them. I used to think it was ridiculous. But yeah, everything has just opened up my mind, and I'm just seeing everything really, really differently. So I'm just looking into it again, and obviously with all the revelations and seeming quite kind of fitting to what's happening now, it's making me want to learn more.
Yeah, I totally get you. I got my mum gave me a Bible, but I can't find Revelations. I thought every Bible had Revelations in it.
You should have, yes.
I need to scan through it. It's really, really tiny print as well, but I am interested at the moment.
Chapter. I think it's right at the end.
Right at the end, the last chapter. I should know these things.
Are you talking about the Mark of the Beast? I don't know.
The end times. Yeah, kind of. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm still very new to it all myself. I'm just every passage I have to read, I have to like look it up, and just get different interpretations on it, because it's all like, yeah, it's still not natural reading to me at all. So
no, because it's all spoken in such hard terms, isn't it? You read a paragraph and it's like, right, I need to decipher that.
Yeah, and I was rubbish at Shakespeare. I was never into that kind of literature, and it's all written in such a kind of oldie worldy way, isn't it?
And stuff has been taken out of it so that people don't know the whole kind of truth as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's all like someone's interpretation of it. So I bought an agnostic one as well recently, just to look at that. But then I just can't read books at the moment. There's so much information, isn't there? It's really hard to sort of sit still and take in a whole book when you're just getting little snippets of crazy videos that people are sending you about things.
Yeah, tell me about it.
We all receive those.
Yeah.
So where do you see all of this going, Mel? All of this COVID stuff. What do you think? What are your personal thoughts in more control? Do you think it's gonna override? Lots of people are like, oh, the end is near, and I'm thinking this is just the start.
Oh, I literally have no idea right now. At the moment, I have no idea what's happening. I'm just waiting and seeing. I'm not normally that sort of person. I need to know everything, but I don't think we can. Otherwise, we're just going to make ourselves ill, aren't we? Trying to figure it out. There's so many crazy theories, and we don't know what's going to happen till it happens.
Sure. And are you following Trump and what's going on over there?
Yes, I am. Yes.
That's all very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exciting and stressful, and interesting as well. And I hope and pray that those people who have that such strong faith about it all, I just hope they're right. I want them to be right. But I never trust anything until I see it.
Yeah, same here.
Well, lots of people are saying we're in the 10 days of darkness.
Again.
Well, I know, but the 10 Days of Darkness, I believe that's in Revelations, is it? Have you read that far yet, Mel?
I don't know, actually.
I'm going to have to do some more Googling on this, because
I'm
I'm
going to have
trans.
Yeah.
But the 10 days, sorry, no view. You speak.
Oh, no, it's okay. You go for it. I just don't know.
I can't. You just don't know. No, I don't know neither. None of us know, do we? Richie that was on just now was saying, you know, like, there's half a day where it's all going to be good, half a day where it's all going to be crap, and yeah.
Basically, we've all gone bipolar, haven't we?
We have all gone bipolar. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we just got to let go and just see that sometimes things are bigger than us, and obviously we're all powerful, but I don't know, we just can't, there's nothing we can do about this bit, so
yeah.
We can't. You're absolutely right. And I think for lots of us, when we're trying to do our bit on Facebook, and I've had messages from people today actually saying, I'm coming off Facebook, I've done so much, I can't do any more. They're just exhausted by it, and it's like,
we've got to remember it's only a tiny part of the world, Facebook and Twitter, and when you're on it, it just feels like it's the whole world. But when you talk to other people, they don't. A lot of my friends don't even have it and never have had it. So it's just a small part of the world.
Yeah.
How many of them are you on then? Are you on Twitter and
I'm on everything. I don't know what's going on anymore. On Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I tried Gab, but it never opens for me. I was on Parler for a day and then it closed down. I'm on Signal, everything.
Yeah. Apparently with Gab, loads of people have been trying to go on suddenly, and that's why they're struggling, but hopefully it'll be right in the end.
Yeah, that's why I've just given up with it for now. I'll just leave it and see what happens. And then there's the new sorry, carry on.
No, sorry, you carry on.
Well, there's the Truth, isn't there? The Truth Network. And the Save Our Rights are opening up a new one as well.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked at it, but so there's lots to choose from.
Yeah, there is, and I follow Save Our Rights. They've done a new thing now though for a subscription. Is that right? £2 a month.
I haven't looked at it, to be honest.
I don't like money. I don't like it when money comes into it. But then I know that if they've got to pay for things, things need to be paid for. I do get that, but yeah, I don't know. When they mention we want £2 a month, it's just I don't know.
Yeah. Just like you have to do what feels right for you. But like think about Facebook that's free, and what they do, they just steal all your data and advert, and they steal all your information basically and sell it off to other people. So they're making their money somehow. Everyone makes their money somehow.
Oh, definitely. So with your children then being at home, are they on Facebook and stuff?
No, they're not interested in that.
Oh, that's good.
No. Yeah, they just play their games. They've got a little friends they played with all around the country on their gaming headsets they chat to, and they don't need social media. Quite good, really.
It is. I'd like to be like that. I did have 10 days off after Christmas because I was just like, I need a break. All the negativity.
Yeah, amazing. Gosh, I don't know if I could do that.
I know, 10 whole days. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did go in and have a nose, but I didn't spend... I tried religiously to like wake up and have a cup of coffee and like listen to the birds sing in the garden and just enjoy the moment of coffee before getting straight on and falling out with somebody.
Starting your day with a fight.
Yeah, just stay off Cornwall Live for sure. But
you still get negativity on the gaming side.
Do you get much negative? Not for children.
Well, if they're not playing online games, probably not then.
I don't know.
Yeah, they play online stuff. One of my children had a group of friends last year that weren't very nice, but they just block them. So
you get a lot of trolls if you're on a headset in a game. You get a lot of trolls, and if you go to like the certain forums, or you get certain messages as well. So if you've got, I think you can change the messages and stuff so that only your friends can communicate.
Yeah. That's mostly what they do, and they know like if someone's not nice, they'll either tell us or just block them.
Yeah.
Then they can just curate it really, but they've not really had much of a problem with that, luckily. I mean, it's all to come. they're only young. It's all to come. That's why we were quite relieved when my oldest didn't read for ages, because we were like, well, it doesn't really matter anyone trying to groom him or anything, because he can't read. So
I find it's a fascinating theory though, and I totally get it, because I'm all about, like, you know, like you said, why do they need to learn to read and write at this age, and let them be children. And I'm all for letting them be children and find out who they are. I remember being at school bloody falling asleep at certain subjects, you know, but then later on you also think, oh, I wish I listened. Both sides of the coin. But
you can always look it up though, can't you? I mean, if you feel like there's something you want to learn about, that information's not gone forever.
No, of course you can. It would be easier than going to school and doing a whole term of science when actually there's one part of it that you want to know, isn't it? And this is where we're lucky at the moment with the internet. If it stays, I do have a few worries about the internet going with all of this. I don't think it'll be for a while.
Break.
It could be a nice break. We'll have to revert to like pigeon deliveries and stuff like that, won't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, all learning's not on the internet. There's just like learning everywhere, isn't there? But yeah, it's not like we don't categorise things as learning anyway, but just living and
being.
Yeah.
Just being. And I think that's actually you're giving them such a great gift to just be. They're not set out, they haven't got to be at this, they haven't got to do that, because we're all forced by that bloody clock, aren't we? You start work at 9, you finish at 5, and you're totally in the system. And I think I've realised the last few months, actually, I don't need to earn that much, you know, to manage. That I'm lucky because I've got a partner. We divide the bills. I don't want to go out for 2 weeks at a time and work and think, oh, I'm going to buy a brand new couch. I don't care. I'll just throw a blanket on the ripped one. I'm not materialistic, and I don't think you can be when you've got children anyway, because nothing lasts, does it?
They ruin it all. They ruin everything.
Yeah, they do.
Do they ever get like addicted to their computer games or anything? Do you struggle? Because obviously a lot of people say that you know, with technology now, it's hard to keep kids off technology and stuff. Do you have that problem? Or
I think the worst problem is the adults, really. Can't I'm going to go back to God now. You know the parable. Do you remember the parable when you point to someone saying you've got a splinter in your eye, and then they look at you and they're like, you've got a big plank of wood in yours. You've got to sort out your own issues first before worrying about theirs. But I mean, some people would probably say, "Oh, look at them; they're on the computers all the time." But they don't see what they're doing on them. They're just seeing, "Oh, look, they're addicted." But actually, they're doing all kinds of interesting things. They're talking to people, playing with people, strategizing things, or doing all kinds of things. So, it's addictive. Well, I don't know. I just don't even use that word in with it, really. You've got to look at what they're doing and see if it's like, I don't know. There's one thing that lots of unschooling people say. It's like, if your child was playing a musical instrument for 8 hours a day, you wouldn't be like, oh, stop playing that. Unless they were playing it really badly. You're addicted. They'd be like, oh, look at my child. He's a prodigy. He's amazing at classical music on an instrument. And that would be like revered, wouldn't it? Whereas if they're playing their iPad for 8 hours, it's like, oh, look at them. They're addicted. So, and also like reading. I remember just reading a book. I'd just sit and read for days. I loved reading, and no one was like, oh, look, you're addicted to reading.
Yeah.
Just compare it to other things. I mean, my eldest he's listening to an audio book. He's listened to it for about 3 days, the same kind of series of this book that he loves, Warrior Cats. So he's like basically reading, but through a device. And if you just saw him, you could be like, oh, look at him. He's just addicted to his iPad, but they don't know what he's doing on it.
Yeah,
that's a good point, actually. And lots of the games, they are educational. I used to flip my lid when one of his grannies used to always give him a phone, and I always said I'd never be that parent, like when you're in a restaurant that gives your kids an iPad or a phone. My God, I was wrong. When you've got a 1-year-old and they're screaming, you'll do anything, won't you?
Yeah, lots of things you think you're not going to do, aren't there?
Yeah, of course there are. Yeah, you have all these great ideas, and I am conscious. You know, Piran has the iPad, but Saturday nights is the night he has it in bed. Just because I want it personally, I want him to keep playing with toys, and when that isn't around, he will play with toys. Lovely, you know. But at the end of the day, they need to sit down and unwind as well. And he would rather watch clips from YouTube that I think are absolute rubbish, rather than sitting down and watching a film. And he's always been like that. So
yeah,
you know.
And he probably thinks what you're watching is rubbish as well.
Yeah, he probably does, and that's why sometimes I think we'll sit down and watch this. This was a brilliant film. I loved it as a child, and but no, he'll sit down and play. But then I think, aren't I awful trying to get him to sit down and watch a film rather than play, where he's, you know, making his own amusement and entertaining himself and learning that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, mine hate everything that I ever loved. They taught me that quite young, so I just gave up.
Well, in the first lockdown, I was thinking, we're going to learn yoga. I'm going to teach you the guitar. We're going to do gardening. But he didn't want to do anything I wanted him to do.
They don't. And that's the whole thing. We have to let them be who they want to be, not who we want them to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, do you know what? It's been lovely to talk to you, Mel, and you've certainly answered a lot of my questions and put it into perspective. And who knows where we'll be in 6 months' time? Will he be back in school or home? And personally, if I can cope, I'll keep him at home. You know, it's all a coping mechanism, isn't it? And because I know a few people now that have decided to homeschool and they're down the road, I think, right, well, we've got friends, and they're not following the lockdown. They're keeping their children's mental health and everything where it should be. And we're meeting up and stuff. So, you know, spreading COVID everywhere.
Yeah.
Breathing on every fence and, yeah, you name it. Anyway, thanks for chatting, Mal. It's been lovely for an hour.
To see you, Mal.
And
thanks, Mal.
we are going to sing out with our song. You're more than welcome to join in.
What we're doing this time.
What we're doing. You can stick your stinking vaccines, I think. Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3. You can stick your stinking vaccines up your ass. You can stick your stinking vaccines up your ass. You can stick your stinking vaccines. Stick your stinking vaccines. Stick your stinking vaccines up your ass. Singing we are the 99%.
Yeehaw!
Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 90. Together we are mighty. We are the 99%. See you next week, guys. Same time.